Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the second of 3 pre-conference webinars being offered in preparation for the upcoming National Permanency Conference, October 23rd and 24th in Nashville, Tennessee. Before we begin, I'd like to take just a moment to go over a few housekeeping items related to the webinar. First, you will notice a Zoom viewer button in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. You can use this button to adjust the size of your webinar screen. Secondly, in the control panel located on the upper right hand of your screen, you will see the words questions listed. Use the plus and minus buttons to open or close the question box. This is where you will want to type in any questions you have for Kathleen. The presenter will respond to questions at the end of the webinar. In the event that we run short on time or can't get to all the questions, please know that Kathleen will be committed to responding to these questions offline. And now, I'm pleased to introduce our presenter for today's webinar, Kathleen Bush. Kathleen has over 22 years of experience working with children and adults with attachment and trauma-related issues and disorders. Her passion is working with children with reactive attachment disorder and in training therapists to become capable healers of attachment and trauma issues. Currently, through her position of clinical manager of the adoption, preservation, and foster care therapy programs, and previously with Texas Christian University's Department of Child Development and Department Directors Karen Purvis, PhD, and David Cross, PhD. Kathleen and her staff research the effectiveness of applying the principles of trust-based relational intervention to the in-home intensive services provided by the Babyfold therapists in Central Illinois. Kathleen is a licensed clinical professional counselor in the state of Illinois with a master's degree in human development counseling and a bachelor's in psychology, and is working on a PhD in international psychology with a trauma focus at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. She has received formal training in a variety of therapeutic modalities, including TheraPlay, attachment, self-regulation, and competency, also called ARC, brain paint neurofeedback, integrative attachment, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. She's currently certified in EMDR, working on becoming an EMDR consultant, and is a TBRI educator. She regularly provides training for therapists, other child welfare professionals, foster parents, and adoptive parents, as well as schools, on topics such as trauma-informed care, ARC, and TBRI. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Allison. That was a great introduction. It means I don't have to talk about all the stuff that I've done. I am going to talk about some of the relationships that I have, particularly with the TCU group that developed trust-based relational intervention. Today we're going to talk about mindfulness, and I hope that you are as excited as I am about this topic. We're going to look at a very dynamic topic. It has lots of layers to it. We're going to talk about the science behind it, what it's good for, how you learn mindfulness, and how supervisors support mindfulness, and how you can maintain mindfulness, and how you teach mindfulness. But before I do that, I just want to get to know you all and find out what kinds of work that you do. So I'm gonna try one of these polls, and let's see. If you bear with me, I'm going to put one up and ask you, I have to launch it, to answer, are you a caseworker, a therapist, or are you in a managerial type role? And let me just give you a few minutes or a few seconds to respond. All right. Okay, looks like everybody's pretty much answered. All right, and now I'm going to share it. All right. Let's see, so 38% caseworkers, 15% therapists, and 47% supervisors and managers. That makes me so excited because we are going to talk about being a supervisor of a worker that needs to learn mindfulness and how to support them in doing that. So yay, thank you. And I'm so glad everybody's here. Just so that you know, there are about 61 attendees, which is a great turnout. So I just really appreciate y'all joining me today. The first thing I'm going to talk about is Dan Siegel. Dan Siegel is a great trainer of parents and therapists and caseworkers on mindfulness, on child rearing, and he's the author of Mindsight, Brainstorm, and The Whole Brain Child. The Whole Brain Child is one of my favorite books to share with parents, so I hope you check that out sometime. So Dan says that parenting mindfulness includes being conscientious, caring, and intentional in your parenting. There's also a contemplative form. You know, it's mind training, so it's how you interact with those around you, but it's also something that you do to take care of your mind. And Kabat-Zinn says present on purpose, tracking moment-to-moment experience without judgment is how that researcher would describe contemplative mindfulness. And then Dan also mentioned there's creative mindfulness, and you know, we're not really going to talk too much about it today except for a little bit towards the end. It's basically being very creative, being open and willing to try new creative things. And if you're interested in that kind of mindfulness, Dan suggests to check out Ellen Langer. So Dan Siegel, again, talks about the importance of mindfulness or the importance of brain hygiene, basically taking care of how you think, how your brain works. And in doing that, you know, you will find yourself being a more mindful parent, having more compassion for yourself and others. He's got a nice little YouTube video about the importance of mindfulness. I've put a link on here. We're not going to watch it, but I encourage you to go back to this webinar and check that out. So Kabat-Zinn, the researcher I mentioned a little bit ago, when he defines mindfulness, he starts with mindlessness so that you really get that difference of what it means to have mindfulness. So without mindfulness, you have mindlessness, and that is basically automatic mode or autopilot or a habitual state of shallow attention. So let me give you an example. If you get in your car and you drive home and you get there and you realize for the last 15 minutes you really weren't paying attention, you have no idea how you got home, you know, you just sort of went through the motions, your body took care of it. And that's kind of scary, isn't it, to think about driving on autopilot mode, but that's mindlessness. Basically walking down the hallway, not paying attention to who you pass, you're not really tuned into how other people are being. Also, maybe not really giving yourself any attention either, just not paying attention. And some people are very mindless in their day-to-day activities. Mindfulness requires self-regulatory abilities. In other words, you got to have skills in bringing your mind back to what you're supposed to be focusing on in the moment. Itzvin and Hart defines mindfulness as a cognitive mode and a meditative practice. And I think that's really important because we have to remember that in order to get to that cognitive mode, we actually have to do something that is helpful for our brain. Webster says the practice of maintaining a non-judgmental state of heightened or complete awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, experiences on a moment-to-moment basis. So mindfulness is a state of mind in Webster's definition. Hansen, the author of Buddha's Brain, another really great book which I recommend that you read, says that it's the skillful use of attention of your inner world and outer world. And again, it's a skill. All right. So mindfulness is positively associated with happiness, positive emotions, satisfaction with life, the ability to go out and do things, that's autonomy, optimism, self-regulation, and my favorite, improved cognitive functioning. As I get a little older, this is a really important thing to me, and mindfulness has been key, and or I should say the mindfulness practices that I've used have been key in helping my brain continue to work well. So mindfulness reduces rumination, anxiety, stress, and depression, so wonderful things that it can do. So who needs it? Well, you all do. Caseworkers, therapists, parents, teachers, supervisors. So we're going to use it, and we're going to share it with our staff, and our staff are going to share it with their clients. And hopefully everybody is just being mindful as they're interacting with each other. And why are we going to do that? Because it's going to reduce our stress. It's going to improve our health. It's going to reduce our anxiety. If you have a trauma history, it's going to help with your client engagement if you're aware of that and how it might be impacting how you're functioning with your clients. Improve functioning, not just with your clients, but just in general and getting your paperwork done or whatever it is that you need to do. What is it? It improves personal health, engages with clients. I said all this. I don't need to say that again. All right, mindfulness is, it went backwards. Sorry about that. Mindfulness-based stress reduction program. So again, Kabat-Zinn, a famous researcher, was doing this for a long time. So back in 1979, he developed he and his co-workers developed a mindfulness program that has been researched hundreds of times, and it's really demonstrated to improve well-being, psychological and physiological health. And I have to tell you, this is used worldwide. I discovered this program doing some research down in Brazil for a program down there, and we were able to find this as an option for in-home workers in an in-home program for health down in Sao Paulo. So that was really cool. What goes into mindfulness? All right, well, mindfulness is a little complicated, so I picked this definition for you, or this set of instructions, I guess. It's present-oriented consciousness, so being here and now. A clarity of one's inner and outer realms, so that's really being in touch with what's going on inside of you and what's going on outside of you. A non-discriminatory awareness of one's own construct of reality. That's a lot of words to just say that you understand that you have your own perspective on life. It's not necessarily correct, but it's what you have, and other people have other perspectives on what's going on in front of you. A flexibility of awareness and attention. An empirical stance towards reality. That means that you have a focus on the facts, what's going on in front of you, rather than your thoughts about the facts or your interpretations, your historical memories that impact what you're seeing. You know, that's really what your perception is you're taking all that information that you have in your history and you're applying it to what's going on in front of you. And with mindfulness, you really just try to take a very fact-based what's going on in front of you and let go of those assumptions. So value-free, non-judgmental. Non-judgmental is very important in being mindful. And then a stability of attention. Fewer moments of distraction, more focus. We like that, trying to get our work done. So as we talk about the research, let me describe to you a questionnaire that is used in the next research study that I'm going to report on. There are 5 facets to it, and they're looking at your ability to observe, to notice external and internal stimuli, to describe, to label the experience. And Dan Siegel likes to say, name it to tame it. That's what we mean. Be able to take that information that's going into your brain, pull it up in your prefrontal cortex, and describe verbally what it is that you're seeing. To act with awareness, paying attention to the current moment. Non-judgmental of inner experience. Again, don't judge the thoughts or the emotions. No shame. I do that a lot with my clients. We talk about letting go of the shame and understanding that thoughts and emotions flit into your mind, and there's no reason to feel shame or feel bad about them. You have the ability to use your prefrontal cortex to decide whether or not they're good or not good thoughts and emotions. If they're not useful, I shouldn't say not good because they're all good, just they may not be useful, they may not be helpful to your situation. So let go of the shame and just notice those thoughts as they come into your head and those emotions into your head, and not judge them in a negative way. You do use your judgment, and that is really the next one. It's non-reactivity of experience, or sorry, let me say that again, non-reactivity of inner experience, allowing your feelings without reacting to them. In other words, you get to decide whether you're going to respond to them. Reaction is more of that triggering response. It's where the thought or the feeling comes in your brain and you immediately react. When I'm talking about responding, I'm talking about using your prefrontal cortex, using the thinking part of your brain to decide whether or not this is something that you actually want to respond to. Sometimes you can let it go. Sometimes it's not something that you need right now, and you can just, notice it and let it go by. So what is mindfulness good for? Well, the research on the 5-facet mindfulness questionnaire showed that mindfulness is positively correlated with self-regulation, openness, which is critical for engagement. Actually, all three of these are critical for engagement with our clients, and emotional intelligence. It's negatively correlated with thought suppression, stuffing it down, alexithymia, which is basically the inability to name it, and experiential avoidance. In other words, being afraid to go out into the world and try new things. So meditators have a higher correlation to these things. Meditators are mindful. They're able to be mindful. And how do you learn mindfulness? Well, Anton Chekhov, I think he's a Russian playwright, said, knowledge is of no use unless you put it into practice. And what does it look like? Well, it looks like this. And I just realized this is a perfect time to do another question. So let me do that. I'm going to pull up another poll. And this time we're going to ask, do you currently engage in a mindfulness practice? And hopefully you're answering my poll. There we go. See some responses here. So 54% of you guys are about 50-50. It keeps moving. People are still answering. Keep answering. I don't have everybody answered yet. It's about 50-50. Isn't that interesting? So half of you guys are already doing it. So maybe half of you are trying to figure out whether or not to how to share this with other people, how to teach this with other people. So I'm so glad that you're here and planning on sharing. And for the people that haven't tried it yet, a welcome, so that, I'm really hopeful that we're able to give you some skills today and help you start your own mindfulness practices. All right, back to what's it look like. Okay, so let's just take a moment here, and I want you to, what happened there? It went on to the actual picture of the, funny. All right, sorry about flipping into the internet there. So take a look at her. I want you to kind of imitate her for a little bit here, and I want you to close your eyes, lean back a little bit, and notice your body. Notice your emotions as they flit in and out, your thoughts, and then don't judge. Just think. They just are. This lady, hopefully you'll see, is a great example of somebody who's being attuned. She is present. She is with this person in front of her, assuming it's her client. Look at her eyes. She's engaging in eye contact. You can tell she's looking at her. Her body's sort of writing down what this other woman is saying. She's listening for emotions. She's trying to get the meaning under the words, the emotional meaning under the words and behavior she's seeing in her. So mindfulness is about ourselves, like I showed you in the last slide and demonstrated, but mindfulness is also about our relationship with other people, and hopefully you can see that in this slide. She's being mindful. Maybe she's going to check for understanding by paraphrasing. Maybe she'll co-regulate if this person in front of her starts to get upset. That's mindfulness. All right. So mindfulness is the basis for client engagement. You have to be open, you have to have empathy, you have to have genuineness, you have to be in the moment with the person and following along with them. So hopefully you understand how critical it is to be mindful in our jobs. So how are we going to start mindfulness? Well, first we're going to start with relaxation. And of course, we gave you a little bit of an example of how to tune into yourself. But now I want you to do some practices, some actual relaxation practices. So I want you to just, again, close your eyes and just listen to me as I give you these instructions and follow through if you can. Relax your tongue. Just let it drop into the bottom of your mouth. Relax your eyes. Let them droop. And now relax your jaw. Feel the tension draining from your body and sinking into the earth. And hopefully you're not falling asleep, but you feel a good sense of relaxation. This reminds me of a time that I gave a training tape on mindfulness to one of my staff, and she plugged it into the CD player in a car, and she said she had to pull over halfway through because it was making her fall asleep. I don't want you falling asleep here. So, so stay with me. The next activity that you can try, and you can try this after the training, is diaphragmatic breathing. And this is something that takes practice, because if you do it and you've never done it before, it can make you dizzy. So just go ahead and stop if you start feeling dizzy and breathe normally. But we do want you to start practicing diaphragmatic breathing. It's very important. When you breathe out of the top of your lungs, at the very top, you only get about a cup of air, but if you breathe out of your belly or your diaphragm, you'll get a full liter, and you know how much your body needs that oxygen. So we're going to go ahead and fill our diaphragm all the way down, and you want to do this, to maybe do a count of 4 or 5, just like that. Just breathe in and breathe out, and then just practice that for a couple of minutes. Another activity that you can do for relaxation and getting tuned into your own body is a progressive relaxation activity. And I recommend that you do this at night in bed. It's a great place to practice. Have your clients do it this way. And you can do it in the office as well, but just for learning how to do it, it's a wonderful place to try it for the first time. And what you do is you lay in bed and you just progressively relax your body from out in. So you start with your feet, and you clench your toes, and you count for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 very slowly, not like I'm doing. I'm trying to move through this training. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you relax to the count of 5, and then you go to your ankles and your calves and your thighs, and then you switch to your hands and you clench your fingers to the count of 5 and let go. And your wrists and your arms, it is a little bit awkward, but you just tell them to tense it up. And then when they get to their shoulders, if their shoulders are tense, you have them just work on that a little bit longer, maybe hold it for 20, or massage it a little bit if your neck hurts. Tune into yourself and take care of yourself. And then when you're done with your shoulders, do your tummy and your back and your face, do your forehead, your eyes and your cheeks and your neck, so they're all nice and relaxed, and that should probably help you fall asleep. So another activity that you can do is is breathing in a deep breath and then exhaling twice as long. That can help you kind of orient to what's going on in front of you. Help you recenter, ground you. I have my clients do this a lot. If they're struggling, I will just do it naturally now. If I just need to make sure that I'm getting enough oxygen in me and just focus a little bit better. So that's an awesome one for just in the moment. There's also rhythmic breathing, and I'm actually going to talk about that more towards the end. So I'm going to it's just breathing out at an equal measure. 1, 2, 3, out. 1, 2, 3. If you want to breathe longer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then out 1, 2, 3, 5. But the rhythmic breathing research I'm going to talk to you about at the end. You can also touch your lips. It slows your heart rate. It works on your parasympathetic nervous system. So, those of you guys that like water bottles or coffee, that might be what you're doing. Just helping yourself cope a little bit better. Doing a body scan is a great way to get in touch with your body and kind of know what's going on and be in tune. And that's just scanning your body from the head to the toe and kind of noticing, tension, maybe working it out in your shoulders, or, maybe you're hungry, go get something to eat, thirsty, just tuning in. And then also just for a nice relaxation, using imagery to relax. There's another exercise that you can do, and that is the GLAD practice, where you relax and then think about things that you're grateful for today. That's the G in GLAD. Things that you learned today, that's the L. Things that you accomplish, that's the A. And things that you delight in, that's the D. So that's GLAD practice. So that's a nice suggestion somebody gave to me, so I thought I'd throw that in there today. It's not in my PowerPoint, so I apologize for that. But I thought it was important. So, oh, no, I did throw it in there. I did. It's at the bottom of this page here. Great. So I forgot what I did. So mindfulness, self and other. So I want you to think about, again, relaxing your body, noticing how your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts, don't judge. And then here's the other part, have compassion. Have compassion for yourself and have compassion for other. And then you can use the GLAD practice as well. So as you're relaxing your body, you can take moments to think about things that are bothering you and just notice them, don't judge, forgive yourself, forgive others, have that compassion for other people who might be having a tough day, have compassion for yourself that you're having a tough day, and then do some of this GLAD practice where you just notice what you're grateful for, what you've learned and what you accomplished and what you've delighted in. That's pretty cool. And of course, if you do these things, you can be more relaxed at work and your boss will realize that you have better focus. You're getting more stuff done. So speaking about bosses and supervision, I pulled this from the internet. This is just a nice little professional development, visual to help you kind of realize all the things that supervisors need to do for their staff. They mentor, they consult, they coach, they provide community of practices so they, the staff can get together and talk about these things. They do reflective supervision, which is a mindful type of supervision I'll go through a little bit. Lessons in study, like this 1 hour training that you have right here. Our staff here at the Baby Fold are going to get this training as well. They're doing all sorts of trainings all the time. You think about computers and phones and all that kind of stuff when you think technical assistance, but you have to remember it's also the how-to assistance. It's the actual modeling of a behavior or modeling of a practice. So, if it's going to the client's home and showing how particular technique, or doing it with the staff in supervision so that they can see how to do it and practice it themselves. So technical assistance in mindfulness is really important. So that's why I threw this screenshot in here. I just wanted you to realize that mindfulness, it takes all of these things. But I actually am going to go through reflective supervision a little bit because I think it's critical to being a mindful supervisor. And there are 3 building blocks to reflective supervision, and the first one is obviously reflection. And that means to step back and look with your staff on what's going on in that relationship, what's going on with these experiences, what does it really mean, the dynamics of the family, and also what are we bringing as staff or clinicians to that relationship with that family. That's a really critical piece, and you have to take time to think about your relationship as a staff person to your clients. So that's mindfulness in relation to your clients. And it's really important for supervisors to understand that they have to have a foundation of honesty and trust in order for a staff person, a caseworker or a therapist to feel comfortable sharing that maybe they're bringing something negative into the situation that they need to deal with. That's a lot of trust. So it bears bringing that up in this training, that we have to provide an environment of emotional safety for our staff to be able to explore this stuff. Collaboration is a way to set that up, and our supervision sessions are a sense of teamwork or shared power, a discussion together about things. If we have a supervisor that has sort of like this idea that they are better or they have a higher level of power, over their staff and they lord over their staff, that can really set that staff up to not feel trust in their supervisor. But I can assure you that that does not take the authority away from the supervisor to deal with things like late work or misbehavior. All right, you still have to do that as a supervisor, but you can do it without, you can do it with kindness or empathy, understanding. Set the boundaries, but at the same time do it kindly. Another piece of supervision that's really critical is regularity of supervision. Just like the staff needing to provide regularity for their clients, seeing them weekly or whatever the schedule is, as a supervisor we need to do the same thing. It builds trust, and again, trust is critical to mindfulness in our staff. They have to be able to trust us as supervisors, so we have to show our investment in them. So whatever the regularity is of your supervision, if it's weekly, bi-weekly, whatever, try to keep within that week. If you have to reschedule, I understand you need to reschedule sometimes. And try not to procrastinate too much, because that really makes that staff feel insecure, and we need them to feel very secure to come to you and lean on you. So as this is for either supervisors or the staff, in identifying a need in another person, how do you identify a lack of mindfulness? Well, you might see a lack of engagement, a lack of warmth, a lack of eye contact. That person may seem very overwhelmed, distractible, and lack clarity, and they don't conversate. They may have anxiety about topics. They might show a lot of frustration, anger, and resentment. They may be ruminating or worrying a lot, and they may show some avoiding behaviors. You know, that person might be sick a lot, missing work, late to meetings, just kind of avoiding. This is a self-assessment to help yourself before a supervision session, because, you know, we're going to rely on our supervisors to provide us support in being mindful about our relationships with our clients. Okay, again, mindfulness is not just about being in the moment with ourselves. It's also about, you know, being in the moment with our clients. And if we're having difficulties because of our own history or things that are going on that we don't understand, that's kind of, you know, taking us out of the moment, we have to become aware of that. All right, and supervision is a great place to explore that issue. So prior to going to supervision, you got to find, you know, the difficulties. So this is my recommendation. Lean back in your chair, close your eyes. I'm assuming you're in a quiet place where nobody else is going to bother you. Bring up the picture of your client, their family, the circumstances that you're dealing with, and just allow your thoughts to flow free. And figure out, what is the content of that? Is there any negativity? Is there any worries that you're having about it? There probably are. But really I want you to think about, can you call up compassion for your client, and can you call up the preciousness of your client? And hopefully that will help you identify any negativity that you might be bringing to the situation. Of course, take that to your supervisor. Now, if you are identifying a struggle, then I want you to use mentalization, and therapists will know this term. You know, we often use this with our clients, with the parents that we work with. You know, when we look at a particular behavior of a child, and, you know, we figure out, where did that behavior come from? Where is that emotion coming from? What is the history behind it? You know, what are the desires, needs, feelings, reasons, beliefs, and whatnot that are going into it? You know, when you identify the concern, find the history, and a lot of times if we can find out where it came from, it can help us understand it better. And again, it brings it into our prefrontal cortex, and we realize we don't have to have this emotional response to it, but just respond to it using our thinking brain. Mentalization, I recommend it. All right. This is another exercise, but this one is to specifically build compassion and connection in your sessions. So before you go see your client, so for my staff who basically cover a 22 county area, and they, you know, are driving sometimes hours in their cars before they see a client, they would do this maybe a block away from their client's home. and just sit in their car and quietly, so basically in a safe space, a quiet, safe space. So if you have an office, do it there. If you're in a car, before you get into that client's home, do it, a block away. So lean back in your car, turn it off, lean back in your car, and just picture the client and the situation. I want you to take deep, even breaths from your belly. Again, diaphragmatic breathing. Why? Well, diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing communicates with your brain. It communicates a very important thing, and that is there's no reason to be stressed out. Your belly actually sends neurochemicals to your brain in which your brain will read them and take cues from. So if you have a lot of, and vice versa, if you're stressed out, your stomach may go both ways. But I want you to realize that you can actually send information to your brain. Now, if you are breathing at the top of your chest quickly, or just breathing at the top of your chest where you're only bringing in a cup of air, and you're breathing short, you're basically telling your brain, you're talking to your amygdala and saying, I need to get ready for flight, fight, or freeze. And that's not a good thing. So it's really important that you take these deep, even belly breaths to relax yourself, relax your body, and help you be mindful. And it will communicate with your brain that whatever it is that you're about to think about when you're dealing with your clients, the situation your clients, that it's nothing to panic about, okay? So deep belly breaths, and then to help as you're thinking about the situation of your client, I want you to bring up several of your client's positive attributes, dimple in the kid's cheek, their fluffy hair, the curls, or whatever it is that just makes them so cute, and the parents as well. And sometimes recently their behaviors have not been the greatest, and you're really concerned, but you can still reach back to the first couple of sessions where they asked you to help them and they told you what they hoped about their case and their therapy sessions. What are their dreams? The million-dollar question, when you're all done, what's it going to look like? What's going to be different? So you can think about that, and then just think about what makes them precious. What makes them precious to humanity? If you're a faith-based person, to God, really just thinking about them spiritually and how important they are. And then actively wish that person well. And then actively forgive them for any reason that you might need to. If you've got anything, you're like, oh, they were really mean last time and it hurt my feelings, just let it go, forgive them. It might be you that caused the issue too. Actively forgive yourself. Maybe you ignored something that you really wished you had picked up on and now you're embarrassed. Or maybe you were short, or maybe you had to cancel a session. Take a moment to deep breathe and just actively forgive yourself. You're human. Give yourself some compassion as well. And take any negative feelings left over to your supervisor afterwards. Okay. Do the best that you can, and just make sure you're communicating with your supervisor. All right. So put it into practice. It's really important that you put your knowledge into practice. And Gandhi says an ounce of practice is worth more than tons of preaching. So how do we teach our clients? Well, in order to teach our clients, we have to do it ourselves. We really have to be there and be doing it ourselves. So I wanted to talk about trust-based relational intervention a little bit because it's pretty cool. And I think that, if you're interested in it, you should come and see me at the NPN conference, because I'm going to be talking about how to implement it in your agencies and how we did it at our agency. But I just wanted to tell you about the training itself that I got down in Texas Christian University. The very first 2 days of the TBRI training that we give to caregivers focuses on mindfulness in their relationship with their kids. And that just shows you, out of a 4-day caregiver training, how important mindfulness is. And it's more than just connection and theraplay. It's also occupational therapy based stuff. It's sensory integration. So the 3rd day of TBRI, or trust-based relational intervention, is spent on getting to know the child's issues physiologically. You know, how their diet is, how they're, you know, how much they need to drink, and just really understanding their sleep patterns and sensory issues, because that also helps you be more mindful of the other in your relationship, the child that you're working with. And I like to talk about this in terms of ourselves too. If you're not aware that you need water every couple of hours, you know, that you need food every couple of hours, that you need to regulate your blood sugar, or that, you know, scratchy shirts really bother you and distract you, if you're not aware of this stuff, you're not being mindful. So actually, all of this sensory integration stuff is stuff that you can use on yourself and help you function better, be more mindful, take better care of yourself. If I'm running through the day and being mindless and not paying attention to the fact that I need to eat, and I'm staying up real late at night and not paying attention to the fact that I need to sleep 8 hours every night, and if I'm burning the candle at both ends, I'm not being mindful. So mindfulness practice is not just the daily meditation that I'm going to encourage you to do, but it's also taking care of yourself. And you know, with trust-based relational intervention, that's a parenting program, that's a caregiver program, that is taking care of others. So mindfulness is much broader than you probably thought when you came in here. So I like putting this slide in here because this reminds me of the 20 minutes that Dr. Cross taught us Tai Chi when we were at the trust-based relational intervention training. You know, he's a daily practitioner of this, and he really feels it's very important that you implement some sort of mindfulness practice. So he actually spent some time doing this with us. It was a lot of fun. I immediately came back from Texas and bought probably 3 different DVDs on yoga, Christian yoga. I wanted to make sure I had enough, you know, variety, and Tai Chi, and I found a Christian Tai Chi video as well. So this next one is, do you teach your clients, or if you're a supervisor, your staff, how to engage in mindfulness practices? So I'm going to launch this. So if you don't mind answering. Awesome. I'm so glad you guys are engaged in this. This is great. So keep answering. I think about 60% people have answered. All right, I'll close it. So 32% said yes, and 68% said no. All right. Thanks. All right. Oops, I need to go back. I didn't mean to do that. Okay. So daily maintenance plan. You know, I think that it's really critical for you to realize that in order to really have this be a part of your treatment or your care of your clients, you have to be doing it for yourself. And I have to be honest with you, until I started doing this, it didn't dawn on me often enough to say it. You know, it's easy to tell people to do things, but even then, you know, if you're not doing it regularly, you may not remember to tell them to do it. So, you know, even if you thought that it didn't apply to you, which of course you do think that because that's why you're here, but even if you thought that before you got on here, you know, realize that by putting this into your daily life, you are more likely to recommend this. You're more likely to bring it to somebody else and share the benefits of it. So how do you do a daily maintenance plan? Well, of course, there's prayer, which, you know, is just fantastic. It has been researched along with meditation. The thing to think about prayer is what they're talking about is contemplative prayer, not just the whipping off the God, I'd really like to have this today kind of prayer, but sitting and some people will sit with their religious Bibles, their literature, and just contemplate that information, or some people will pray for their family members one by one and just think about their needs. I think that's fantastic because that really brings up compassion for others. If you pray for your clients and their needs, again, another way to build compassion for others. Praying for yourself is a way to build compassion for yourself. So contemplative prayer is very effective. Meditation, very effective. There's a lot of having compassion for yourself, having compassion for others in meditation, by sitting quietly and focusing on something healthy. You can really change your neurochemistry. I'll talk about some research on that one. Yoga, we did a wonderful training, yoga and mindfulness for kids. It's a PESI training, and I think it was by Little Flowers. You probably look that up on the internet, but the yoga trainer was wonderful. He goes into schools and he talked about sharing yoga practices with the kids and with the teachers in a very religiously neutral way, so that they felt more comfortable. They just wanted to make sure that it reached everybody. But he talked about the need to warn the teachers that if they did the yoga, that it was going to bring up tough stuff. It was going to bring up their past traumas and their past histories and things that are bothering them, and they needed to be prepared for that. And I think it was wonderful that he thought to say that, because when we talk about yoga, you might think about it's just a physical exercise. Well, yeah, it is, but it's also a meditation, and that can bring up tough stuff. So being aware of that, just being mindful that can happen, and having the warning is enough, really. Go Noodle. Go Noodle is wonderful. Teachers use Go Noodle in their classrooms, and it's just like 2 and 3 and 5-minute exercises for kids. They can be physical, they can be yoga-esque. I think Little Flowers has some of their little short videos on Go Noodle. It's free. You can go on there, make yourself an account, and you can practice Go Noodle activities with the kids that you work with and the parents and the kids that you work with. They're fun, and there's a lot of social skills elements to them. Just a wonderful website. I recommend that one. How Does Your Engine Run is the alert program. It's a great book. A lot of schools use it. Our residential treatment used it. Our residential treatment center used it to work with the kids, teaching them in groups. We do it individually with kids. It really just teaches them sensory integration, information, and how to be mindful. So it's a really cool little program. Tai Chi and other martial arts, breathing exercises, diaphragmatic breathing, and heart rate variability. I'll talk about that at the end again. That's that rhythmic breathing I was talking about. So why do we like meditation and prayer? Why did I kind of talk about that in the beginning? Well, it increases gray matter in the insula, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex. It helps your brain. It reduces cortical thinning due to aging. It decreases stress-related cortisol, anxiety, phobias, and eating disorders. It improves your psychological functioning, sleep patterns, attention, compassion, empathy, mood, and immune functioning, and health. Please, there's just so many good reasons to do this. I hope that you find time. And this is a great little research, well, it's a big research project actually, research project that was done between Madison, Wisconsin, Spain and France, I think, so universities, and they did some research on meditators, and they had them meditate for an 8-hour period. And what they found after doing all the, they did neuroimaging and all the blood tests and all this different stuff, they found that after 8 hours straight of mindful practice, they showed a range of genetic and molecular differences, including altered levels of gene-regulating machinery, reduced levels of pro-inflammatory genes, which correlated with faster recovery from stressful situations. So basically, why did I throw this in here? I wanted you to understand that mindfulness impacts you at a genetic level in your genetic expression. And, when you're thinking about trying to prevent cancer and coping with stress, and, if you are on this call or this training, that how you are stressed because This is important stuff. You need to do it. It's going to help you in so many different ways. I put this, I love this picture, is awesome. I just found it on the internet, but this is not Donald Altman. This is just a cute picture. Donald Altman is a great, well, he was a Buddhist monk. I don't know if he still is, but he is actually a therapist now, and he has a great training out called Top 1 Minute Mindfulness Strategies. And I wanted to put this on here because I wanted you to realize that I understand that you can't just suddenly start doing 1 hour of mindfulness practice a day. That's a little hard to do. It's not how I started anyways. So I encourage you to realize that you can start small and grow big. So I started with maybe 20 minutes, 10 minutes, and of course these little minute-long activities throughout the day with the deep breathing and stuff. But I want you to realize that building up to an hour of mindfulness a day, it takes practice, and even when I'm doing an hour of mindfulness practice a day, I am practicing, and that means I am having to return my attention constantly because my brain does wander. So it is practice, and you can start small. This is a great, I'm not going to play this YouTube for you, but I want you to realize that Dan Siegel actually has about 15-minute YouTube video of guided mindfulness meditation. So you can sit with Dan Siegel and he can guide you through a meditation, and that's just a picture of him with the Dalai Lama. So, do this at some point. We were talking about creative mindfulness in the very beginning, and I didn't want you to think that these types of activities were the end-all be-all. They are creative mindfulness. They're a way to reorient yourself and kind of connect with yourself in the moment. But when I was talking about practicing contemplative mindfulness, I was really talking about the meditation and the prayer and the Tai Chi and those kinds of things. This is a Zen garden, and one of my coworkers has one on her desk, and it is a great toy to sit down and just kind of be playful. It helps your neurochemistry be positive and happy and healthy and kind of focus on the moment. But in and itself is not necessarily what I'm talking about. So I want you to do creative mindfulness activities, have stress balls, have little things that help tune you into the moment. And calm yourself and orient to the present. There's a lot of toys out there that can help you do that, but that's in addition. That is sort of like the fun part of mindfulness, but you have to practice it first to really know what it is. And if you're struggling to get there, if you're struggling to be truly relaxed, my recommendation is have somebody else help you, okay, through massage therapy. So if you have somebody else give you a really good massage, then you will find that place, and it will help you find that place of true relaxation where you can be contemplative. Okay, so sometimes you need a kickstart, so I thought that would be a great idea for somebody that was struggling with it. I remember I kept referring to heart rate variability throughout, and this is the research behind it, or right here is we're just describing what it is. HRV is a protective factor, particularly against heart attacks. It helps decrease age, stress, and negative emotions. It is a reflection of your autonomic nervous system, how it's working, if it's doing well or not. And why am I bringing this up? Well, heart rate variability is sort of my option for people that are not comfortable with their spirituality or not comfortable with going down that road. It's not part of their mental lexicon, and that's okay. We need to have a variety of different tools for people to help them find what helps them be mindful. So this is an option. There's research behind it. So it's evidence-based, and it's very scientific, very brain-based. And you basically explain how heart rate variability works and why it's important. And, let me tell you what the functioning of the heart rate variability is. Basically, the heart rate will increase as you inhale, and it will drop or decrease as you exhale. So your heart rate is supposed to constantly be going up and down with your inhales and exhales. Well, if your heart rate variability becomes stiff or slows down or stops functioning as well, if it stops being flexible, then that impacts your health, and it's a negative factor again, on your heart. So I want you to realize that this is something that a client can work on, or you can work on, to improve your health, decrease your stress, increase your mood, improve your cardiovascular health. And we're talking about heart rate variability coherence. Basically is that it's your heart rate is matching your breathing in and dropping and matching with your breathing out. So heart rate variability coherence is the term. It's kind of technical, but it's actually a lot of fun to do. So how do you do it? Well, you just breathe in and out evenly to the count of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter if you do 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just that you have to breathe in and out evenly. That's the important piece of it. And as you're breathing in and out evenly, you think about or imagine that you're breathing in and out of the areas of your heart. Again, tuning into your body. And then, we're going to call upon our brain to engage in this activity and create some positive neurochemicals. So we're going to call to mind pleasant, heartfelt emotions of gratitude, kindness, love, happy times, childhood, children, pets. So these are all things that you can think about as you're doing your heart rate variability practice to improve your coherence. All right. Now, we actually have heart rate variability monitors at the Baby Fold. Our staff can take these out to their clients, or they can play with them on their own to improve their own heart rate variability. I think it's a really good idea because it helps you tune in to exactly what your heart and your lungs are doing. And the little blue machine in the corner here is what we're using. And then we can hook it up to the computer and see on the screen and look over time, the improvement in their coherence. But most of the time we just use the little blue machine, and the client or we'll put our thumbs on the big black button in the center, and the little lights on the left-hand side there will go up and down, and basically you're supposed to follow that set of lights to your breathing. It helps you be very even in your breathing, and then you get a little green light at the top if you're doing it right, if you've got coherence. And then if you don't have coherence, it'll tell you with a red light or a purple light. So it's a fairly easy instrument to use. The company that produces them actually has some web-based instructions on it. It sounds pretty complicated, but it's not. And even 5-year-olds have enjoyed using it, and the teens really get into it when we put it on the computer and show them their progress over time. So how do you teach mindfulness? You got to learn what it is. You got to understand the science. You have to practice it. And then you have to support others in being mindful by modeling the behaviors. And I want you to think about teaching a variety of techniques and really looking at who you're working with, who's your client or who it is that's in front of you, and make sure that you match those techniques to their faith-based system or who they are as a person. Because if you teach them Buddhist meditation and they're a fundamentalist Christian, they may not listen to you after that. So really recognize who they are and what their needs are, and try to meet them there where they're at. And then also, refer to support. So we have yoga classes here in town, and we have Tai Chi classes and martial arts. We have all sorts of different activities. I found a yoga class that was, being done on Saturday morning at the local distillery, which is really interesting. But, there's just a variety of things out there for people to do. And when you're thinking about mindfulness, it is a daily practice, or, at least every other day practice, and supporting doing that over time. As you close your case, you're not going to be there anymore. So helping them develop a practice that's going to last beyond your time in their life is important. So my last question is, do you plan to engage in mindfulness activities after hearing all this? Uh-oh, what happened to my poll? Let me see if I can do that again. All right, launch. Let's see what the response is. I'm hoping I have some people that are buying into it a little bit. Half of you have voted, 60%. All right. Well, I am so glad we had a 90%, 98% success rate in encouraging people to maybe try this out and use it or share it with their staff and encourage them. I really do hope that if you have any questions at all, for the couple of you that decided not to do it, to let me know, because this is really evidence-based. You know, what are your concerns? What are your questions about doing it? Is there something that is really foreign to you, or you know, what bothers you about it? Because it is so important to our clients, particularly the ones with trauma histories, to be in tune with their body. Bessel van der Kolk says that this is where you have to start when you start to heal. So I hope that you let me know. There are a lot of really good references at the end of this PowerPoint, and I hope you check them out. And I apologize for not leaving any time for questions, but Allison did promise to let me know if you had them so that I could respond to them. And I do want to. I will be at the conference, at the National Permanency Network Conference, presenting on TBRI and how to implement that in a program. But I'd be happy to talk to you about this as well. There's some links on this for great places where I got my resources. There's also the YouTube videos, particularly the Dan Siegel guided mindfulness, and my contact information as well, so feel free to contact me. And thank you, Allison and Cindy, for setting this up and letting me do this. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Kathleen. We hope you've enjoyed today's webinar. A special thanks to Kathleen for presenting on such an important and timely topic. The recording from today's webinar will be available by early next week. You can access the recording by going to www.harmonyfamilycenter.org. If you'd like to receive the PowerPoint slides from today's webinar, please send an email to Cindy, C-I-N-D-Y, at harmonyfamilycenter.org. We do ask that you request permission from Harmony before reproducing PowerPoint slides. A certificate for 1 hour of training will be sent to each participant via email within the next 7 to 10 business days. If you haven't had an opportunity to learn more about the upcoming National Permanency Conference, I would encourage you to do so. Dr. Bruce Perry will be our keynote for this exciting and innovative conference. You won't want to miss it. You can find more information and the link to the NPC registration site by visiting the Harmony website. Thanks for joining us today, and plan to join us again at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Wednesday, September 13th for the next pre-conference webinar. Take care and have a great rest of the week.